Hello and welcome to Candle Wax. The theme on yellow is Wonders of the World. So we are on D, and today in the Wonders of the World we are going to take our students to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Well, the whole idea of becoming a skill ambassador and a skillful person is that you not only know about the skills that are required but also know the world where you need to use the skills, and which is why the theme on what I call global perspectives of going around the world. Plus, we are tying this to the global goals, the sustainable goals, and that is why they need to know what is where in the world. I like a little quote from Hans Rosling. He said that I have a neighbor who knows 200 kind of wines, whereas I only know of two, red and white. But my neighbor knows only two countries, whereas I know 200. So the choice that we need is they need to know where they stand in a globe. So to begin with, one of the resources I would love for you to have is either the world map or a globe where you can just find Bulgaria, find Costa Rica, find Argentina or Madagascar, and your kids should be able to just find it on a spur of a moment. So having done that, let's jump straight to this amazing Italian masterpiece, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, you see, the whole idea is, as you study about the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which I leave in the theory section, what is about Pisa, what can you learn about it? Even the history of Pisa and the Leaning Tower is very, very fascinating. And I think as a good teacher, storytelling is a part of what we do. So why don't you tell a story first, and this time it's your narrative, and let's see how glued the kids can be on what Pisa is. Pisa is not a very central city, but Italy is not India, so any city is pivotal. So, and especially Pisa is a seaport, and thus it becomes a major center of trade. Not only is a trade center, Pisa was also a resting place for pilgrims from Europe on the way to Jerusalem. If you understand, Jerusalem is a holy city for three major faiths in the world: Christianity, Islam and Judaism. And a lot of Christians from Europe would go down. So also Pisa became a place of a lot of crusade recruitment, and that's the history that you would talk about. However, the idea that when the Pisans won the battle, they decided to how everyone does it as a landmark thing, they were planning to now construct a tower. So an engineer named Bonanno Pisano, so that's Pisa again, laid the marble foundation in a park which was big enough for say 16 Ferraris to park. Kids like this kind of comparison. So that's when the tower started. It's called Romanesque Tower of Pisa, not the Leaning Tower, of course, that's we calling. Nobody wanted to start calling it Leaning Tower, and it was made up of white marbles. In fact, 14,000 white marbles. And unfortunately, despite so much of infrastructure and resources, it took 176 years to make it, but embarrassingly, it was crooked. Now, why was it crooked? If you go to D2, you will understand the reason why Leaning Tower of actually leaning. There was a lot of water under the ground where it was made, and number two, the digging was not huge, so it was only 10 feet down. Remember, any good architect or good civil engineer will tell you your digging should be huge. If you have to build a 4-story tower, it should be 8 stories down on the ground. Number two, by the time they got to the 4th story, which is what they are saying, the southern column started inching towards the northern one, so it started leaning already. So the construction stopped in between, and also the ground being soft, they realized that they have to start making one tower little longer than the others. So not only is it leaning, you also get an angle which says one tower being longer. Anyway, there were a lot of constructions coming in. Pisano, of course, would have died by then, but then in 2060, that is, we are in 2019, almost 102, what are you talking about, 2,000 years before, someone called William started adding 6th and 7th stories to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The bell was added later, but however, the tower kept becoming leaning towards one area. The stairs inside the tower were sinking. The walls had to be built longer and higher. The tower was finally completed in 1372, almost 200 years later, when it started beginning. So this is a kind of an interesting story of Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm sure you can do a much better rendering of it. And then what you need to do is go to D3 and D2 and tell reasons why the Tower of Pisa is leaning. I think I'm stammering as I'm talking about the leaning power, but it's fair enough. There's a lovely photograph people do with the tower, and you can start talking about it. Can they think of an out-of-box reason? Why should it not lean? How can you stop the leaning, as D1 says, and how can you make it straight? I know a Superman movie where he keeps coming and pushing the tower to make it good, and you can have comparison of similar towers around the world. One immediately I can think of is the Qutub Minar in India, in New Delhi. The other one is the Big Ben in London, UK, and then you can have the Zamzam Tower in Riyadh, Mecca. So in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. So you can have a lot of conversations just around the towers in the world. So I hope by the time you finish it, you can actually get a tube or a cylindrical bottle, and you can make your own tower, and hopefully the one which leans the most and yet stands wins. So this would be a hands-on activity for the students, one they would enjoy and one I would enjoy conducting it for the students. Now, since we are talking about Italy, let's do D3 and D4. Our second topic today is about Italy. Fair enough, there's so much to learn about Italy, but I'll just quickly run through. Well, it's this is called the horseshoe of, so it looks like a shoe of a woman, and that is why Italy along with France are more like the fashion capital of Europe. The flag of Italy is green, white and red. Italians are very passionate about food, pizzas and pastas and also football. Ideally, you can go to a Wikipedia page and it will tell you enough about Italy, the history from Latins to Rome's and whatever you need to know. Well, Italy's capital, of course, is Rome, so you get it. And the country's nickname is Bel Paese, which means the beautiful country. And it is a beautiful country. Of course, one of the oldest capitals in the world. Rome was founded in 1753, that is before Christ. Italians use euro, but prior to the euro, it was the Italian lira which was the currency. Christianity and of course Vatican is within Italy, the smallest country in the world. You can go a little about Vatican, talk about Pope, the Catholic head of, and Italians has a great, as most of the European country, education level. So 98% of Italians can read and write. Of course, they eat spaghetti but with a fork. The official language is Italian as well as German. And mozzarella cheese, you can think of Italy as that whole thing. Lasagna, one of the greatest thing. Why not make a dish or perhaps order from your Swiggies? Gelatino, another ice cream, is an Italian invention. Pesto, the thick green sauce with olives and herbs. Just put a Wikipedia and you'll get hundreds of things. And did I miss pizza? And Italian wine or beef. So things that you can talk about. People who were smart Italians, one of them is Alessandro Volta, where you get the unit of electricity, the volt. And Leonardo da Vinci, the genius, the engineer, the scientist, the artist, and the first to prove that the world is round and not flat. Then you had the explorers, Christopher Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci. They are the people, while Marco Polo, again from Italy. So people, amazing people, but Italians who love the sports, cycling, skiing, soccer, motor racing, and especially with regards to soccer, they have great clubs like Inter, Milan, Roma, Napoli, Juventus. Who does not know Juventus after our friend Cristiano Ronaldo went there? You can actually allow children to learn and do as much as they want about Italy. The national bear perhaps is the brown bear, which are protected species, and sheep, which is very popular in southern Italy. So, Venice, one of the cities known for its waterways and an entire city built on water. We mentioned about Italy into how beautiful the country is, the river Po, the longest river. I think I can go on, and perhaps it's not just the fact that I know a lot of things about Italy. You can just pick up any Wikipedia or fun facts about Italy and you start talking about it. While you do that, mention and make sure that the kids know that this is a European country as they would like to know any other country, and they start understanding the benefits of knowing the world, and they can point out to Italy on the globe or the world map. We come to the last part of our activity in the wonders of the world, which is D5 and D6. Now this one, we go a little deeper and we speak about the Romans, the original Italian race. Rome being the capital, the Romans were known as gladiators. What is a gladiator? A gladiator is someone who fights in an arena called the Amphitheater. And we had a great, some of the most amazing movie, one of the best movie, Russell Crowe's, is Gladiator, where you actually fight other slaves, the hungry lions and the occasional bears. It was a sport. And perhaps this was the beginning where Greece took up and then the Olympics came in. Unlike Olympics where people compete in sports and there is a friendship, there's a camaraderie, this gladiator area is full of blood and violence. Well, I'm not talking about the gladiator of that time, but you can ask students what they know about gladiator. What kind of warriors are they? Who is Spartacus, or who is someone else with that kind of a name? What do they mean? What kind of swords and shields they use? What kind of armors they wear? What is an armor made of? What's a sword made of? Of course, if you're a fan like me, you know the names of the sword, the iron claw, the needle. You don't have to name all the sword, but the fact is, create a sense of history. Today's students do not enjoy history as they would like to. And when I started the entire Candle curriculum, I promised that I will amalgamate history, geography and civics and make it very, very interesting. You can actually borrow a piece of game called the Calton, which is a board game that can be played with the students. If not, there is an Indian board game called the Samrat. These are little complicated games, so be careful if you want to buy them. Go on YouTube or find out a game video review and a way where somebody has taught you how to play the game. Fair enough. So what are we going to do with the amphitheater in D6 is, why is an amphitheater circular in shape? So, you're just asking them. Of course, it's for the best visibility, it's for the noise, the echo makes it larger than loud, so it's a surround sound, but allow them to answer questions on this. What is the modern equivalent of an amphitheater? Of course, the first thing that comes to are the stadiums, the football stadiums, the cricket stadium, the baseball stadiums. People come in and they love to watch, the noise, the atmosphere, the flags, the vuvuzelas, the sound, the trumpet, the kind of support that people have. Also some level, unfortunate hooliganism. You can take any subject and you can give this as a theme to a student to prepare a little talk on it. So what about a small scenario where they are going and watching a football game live? Have they watched something in a stadium? Believe me, the atmosphere is vastly and immensely different. It's like multiplying a TV at your home into 1,000 times, and that's what an arena or a stadium can give you. Fine enough. So now we do a last of a role play. Imagine you are one of the gladiators fighting for your life in front of a Roman king, Caesar. Caesar, of course, Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. So describe your feelings. So now you are a gladiator. How would you like to be? And then you fight for your life. Unlike a sport where you lose, win, that's okay. You will be criticized, you'll be questioned, but you might lose or be fired from the team. But that's not the end of the life. What about someone fighting for their life? Why don't you start comparing this with the amount of sacrifice the people in the defense forces put it? Defense force is not a sport. The aerial combats, the maneuvering, the navy that goes, even the drills, the army on the borders. We should be proud of what our nation and our defense forces are doing. Do they know the names of the admirals? Who is the chief of air staff? Who is the chief of the Indian Navy? The admiral? Who is the chief of the colonel or the sergeant? The ranking? I think that would make an excellent piece. Despite moving away from our main subject of amphitheater and gladiator, the modern day gladiators to me are not just the sports person but our defense personnel. How about making a chart of the list of people in your country, and of course the heads to begin with and the few ranking below them, the uniforms you can find about them. This would make up a great chart. You can do a project on it, take some printout or cut out from the magazines, and why don't we create an entire arena and we say to us, you are the modern day gladiators. Hopefully that will create a lot of traction. Your school could send letters to people on the border, and perhaps they stand for a cause, and that is what life skill is all about. Hope you enjoyed the entire conversation on the wonders of the world, and I hope to see photographs, videos, your testimonials and feedbacks at info@skyeducation.in. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome to our Candle Yellow, and today we are doing nation building. That is section E, and nation building is all about involving civics, geography and history, as such social studies, into what we do in global perspectives. The idea is that your skills are not valuable or credible enough if you do not know the global environment that you're living in. Our lifestyles determine so much that we do, and that is what we would like to skill our students with. On that note, the first of the nation building is build up the entire what we call the 4Fs of culture, and I've been repeating in every audio. The 4F of a culture are food, fabric, festival, and flag. So if you want to know, say, about Japan or France or Madagascar, you need to know these 4 things. What do they wear? The fabric. What do they eat? The food. What kind of festivals they have, and what is the origin of the flag, the color, and also a part of it will come into geography in terms of the landscape, the continent there in the capital of the country. In fabric, we've taken 3 very distinct type of clothes to work with. The first one, your E1 and E2, and as I always, I'll explain the first 2 of these, and this becomes the core of what you teach, but then you also teach beyond it what I call the sub-chapters. The core of it is the origin of jeans. Now definitely as a resource, you would request your children, if you're doing in a hobby class, easier said than done. If you're doing in even a school or an institution, I think this will be wonderful if you tell them to wear denims and come. Right? So you are asking your children to wear jeans, and believe me, I'm sure the school would be so excited, the entire class would be excited. I hope your principal would also be, but think of what can, the entire environment changes. So what was the origin of these beautiful jeans? Now jeans were originally designed as hard dress garment to protect the coal miners. So those who would go in the underground mines, because the mines are tough, rough places, this cloth became a part of the garment. And actually there is something called the broiler suit, the suits that people wear when they go to engine rooms and ship, or even the entire full length dresses. They have a lot of pockets. The idea of these dresses are they are sturdy, they have pockets, they are easily on wear and tear, and that's the whole origin of jeans we talk about. Amazing, isn't it? How has the entire jeans undergone the revolution we're talking about? Now, for a lot of things we do, one will be just the culture of wearing a jeans and coming would be wonderful. Then we of course ask them what are the popular jeans company. In times of us growing up, there were two very distinct ones, the Lee's and the Levi's. And ironically, both were from the same mill called the Arvind mill. So they were actually Indian products going and getting labeled in the United States, coming back and then sold as an international product. So you speak to them and you are creating a brand awareness. You're creating a marketing sense in your children. A simple question to ask them is, why are most jeans blue in color? Now this is an interesting question to ask. Have you thought about it? Of course, today you have plethora of colors. You have purple and pink jeans for sure. I have never worn it, but perhaps we've seen it very often. You have white jeans and brown and grays and blacks, which are also popular, but still blues are the ones which rule the roost. Why? One of the primary reasons that jeans were blue in color is the dyes that were available. So blue was the easiest dye to have it. Of course, if you look at the ink, that's where the colors come from. So the common color that you could get was blue. In fact, purple was considered a royal color. Only the kings were allowed to wear it. Not now, of course. So this is one of the reasons why blue jeans became popular. And even today, blue as a color has a very magical effect. Today, the people who study these companies and logos say companies with blue logos have a better chance of succeeding. Just you have blue logo doesn't mean you'll succeed, but blue logos have a great chance. Facebook is blue, Twitter is blue. So yeah, is Microsoft blue? You check it out. So the idea is you can find out some more blue logos, and that could be another aspect of what we do. But this is the whole idea of the jeans culture we're talking about, right? So what are the new the undergone transformation the jeans have done? So if you go to E2, you've got jeans for men and women. Now jeans is a unisex dress, so it's a dress for both the genders. It does not discriminate. That's one way of looking at. What are the popular jeans available? And we just said, there's a tattered jeans, there is iron wash jeans, there's a low waist jeans, there is a high heel jeans. So you can talk about it. I am sure your students will tell you much more about jeans culture than you know. If you have a screen connected to the internet and you can show them, go to Amazon or Myntra.com, do a little study before you put this up and show them what are the available jeans, what cost of them. Talk about the manufacturing cost. So what could a jeans cloth cost if you were to stitch it? Why don't people like, stitching their own jeans, and why do you like labels? So what is this fascination with this brand? So many conversations can happen. As I said, this entire skill program is about you doing your conversations. Now, for any reason, if you do not get jeans, students wear it, you can still ask them to bring their favorite piece of denim to the classrooms. Now, jeans is not restricted to your pants alone, so you have jeans jackets and jeans t-shirts as well, and of course jeans shoes too. So you can allow them to bring anything which is denim in color, denim in the nature, and it will be fun to do a little case study or study about what these clothes mean. The last one is some of the common women wear jeans. Of course, as I said, they're unisex, so they don't have to be men and women, but it's interesting to see there's a low, it should be waist, right, as in your waist here. There is a straight fit, there is a bell bottom, which is very interesting. There is a stone wash, there is a tone jeans. So now what you do is just match these names to the appropriate jeans they've got. The idea of this entire concept is take it a little further now. What do I do it further? Jeans have become such a beautiful casual wear that you can wear a jeans and just typically, pull off anything. You can wear a cardigan, you can wear a sweater, you can wear a t-shirt, which is very common. You can wear a shirt which can tuck it in, you can put it out. You can wear a jeans in a party, you can wear a jeans in sometime a formal occasion with a blazer on. So try these various combinations of jeans around. Number one. Number two, what I meant by the fabric and nation building is jeans has become a global phenomenon. From Japan to Australia to Egypt to Saudi Arabia to Mexico, Argentina to France and London and Germany, India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, jeans are so democratic, everybody wears it. Now this is interesting. Do you think of any other piece of cloth that is so popular, so democratically acceptable than jeans? So perhaps it is interesting to do a case study on jeans, and maybe for 1 week until the next class, why don't you put a jeans in your class, as in a hang it up, pin it up and say, oh, we salute one of the greatest, inventions of man in terms of garment, the noble jeans. I think it will be fun, it is interesting. Not all subjects or all topics are deep, but you can talk a lot about just this one piece of garment. Moving on, we are talking about nation building. So as we go to our next section, which is E2, it is called dress them up. Now in part of fabric, one of the most important thing that we see is a uniform. So let's first understand why is a uniform so important. The most common word associated with uniform is school, because all of us have gone to school, we had a school uniform. So as a teacher, as an instructor, why don't you start a discussion in the classroom about their own school uniform? It will bring a lot of memories now, because we can talk about our uniform, which could be khaki or blue, but the students can do their current uniform. If they're from all same school, probably you'll have a very monogamous answers. But if they're from different school, it is even brilliant. However, you can do a small analysis of what are the most common uniform colors across the school. You can make a small graph. You're teaching them basic graph. So let's put colors. What are the combinations? I was in Kendra Vidyalaya, so my combination of light blue shirt and a dark blue or a navy blue pant. So some of them can say, yes, that's the uniform they had. Then I went to a model government school where my uniform was a white shirt and a khaki pant. I also studied in a Park English school in Kolkata where my uniform was again a white shirt and a grey pant. Boy, I've seen a lot of it. I've seen maroon pants. I've seen only one school have black pant, which is very rare. No schools have jeans. We just had a jeans chapter. So suddenly your conversation borders on a lot of things. Are t-shirts make better uniform or shirts better? Shirts have a lot of buttons on. What's the material you use in uniform? Suddenly the whole class can get involved and you can make a nice pie chart or a graph on just uniform. Number two, a conversation can go on to saying, why is a uniform so important? A uniform gives you a sense of authority, or the policeman in any other uniform, plain coat, will not be so intimidating and not be so appealing, but in a uniform, even a traffic police becomes very, very powerful. So what is the traffic police uniform in different cities in your country? For example, in Bangalore, they wear a nice cowboy hat. Bombay have the Anna Hazare topi. What are the uniform colors of it? How is the uniform of an army different from that? So the camouflage of an army, the admirals, each uniform has stars into it. You can also go on to the jerseys of these sports people. I'm sure Messi's and Ronaldo fans know Juventus uniform or Barca. The jerseys are very popular. How about an IPL team? Can they tell me the colors? Like Royal Challenger Bangalore is perhaps red, Mumbai Indians blue, Kolkata Knight Rider is one of the amazing ones with purple and gold. Chennai Super King is yellow. Again, Australian national team is yellow. So you can suddenly go to a big variety of uniform and you can do a lot of different uniform techniques. Again, we have asked them the fabric of uniform. If you look at the class here, so fireman, his fabric cannot be cotton or polyester because it will hold on, it will catch or latch on to the fire. So this particular fabric is to be different. It is very, very specific. A swimmer's uniform in the other sense has to be specifically tuned not to get soaked up, not to get heavy with water. So these are the ways you look at a uniform. Perspectives changes. A baker's uniform usually is a chef's uniform, very white in color, because you don't want a lot of dirt onto it. So then suddenly a child is thinking a uniform is designed appropriate to the career, to the profession, to the area a person is working in. Same way, a school uniform in a mountainous region or in a Delhi will have a coat, but never in a Chennai because it's very hot or humid there. Uniforms change. You can do a lot of conversations around it, and believe me, it will open a plethora of discussions as we talk about it. As well. Go to the third part, E5 and E6, and we go to a completely different aspect of fabric, which is the necktie. What's the origin of tie? As we did with the origin of jeans, ties were actually discovered rather in a part of a war between France and England, or France and Croatia. So the French King Louis the 13 hired Croatian soldiers who wore this piece of cloth around their neck. Although the Croatian lost the entire war, but Louis loved it and so much that he actually invented this whole necktie borrowing from the Croatians. So you can go to the European history and still see there's a fight who have actually found this entire tie. Today, the origin of tie has been sidelined. Today, it is a very, very distinct business attire. So before I go to E6, how do you tie a tie? How do you not tie a knot on a tie? Of course, another important aspect, every student, boys and girls, have to wear or bring a tie. Now they can borrow from their fathers, their uncles. Strange enough, tie although is also unisex, but mostly men wear it. Do women wear tie? Find it out. Why and why not? And of course, I would love for you to go on a YouTube, discover a nice video where how to wear knots in a tie. Essentially, I would just want you to wear one knot right now. Don't do a lot of combinations. Do the easiest one. The picture may be simple here, but it takes a lot of practice to wear a tie. But I would really want students to bring a tie in their class, and of course the whole day they have to have shirts. Ties are not worn with t-shirts, so you have to make those arrangements. But all the three garments have one thing they have to do, that they have to come in, bring that piece of garment. I'm enjoying this entire conversation because while I'm talking about nation building, I'm only speaking about a common geographical cloth, piece of garment across nations. Now, how do you or where do you wear a tie? As with the jeans, the tie is across lot of events. So business meetings, interviews, you also wear ties at the parties, and they're beautiful ties. I've seen ties with Garfield and Simpsons on it. I love those ties. There are ties with NASA's and space on it, so you can wear them at fundraisers, dinners. You can wear, also people wear ties at the funeral. So tie is a part of an English attire. So if you look at most of the Australian, European countries or American countries, tie is very distinct culture. Even in most of the subcontinent countries, tie is primarily limited to business, not to other things like parties or funerals. You can find it out. Of course, this is very difficult from if you are not wearing a tie, the type of ties. It's not like the jeans, but I've still given you a good example. What's a Windsor tie, a half Windsor? These are all essentially based on the knots you have got. So if you look at the last one, it's called capsule. I have no idea why is it called a capsule or a cape. Well, interesting to know that these are also type of ties. So any kind of type you tie, even if it's really bad, you can say it's one of the different types I have been tying around. So go around, tie a tie around in your class. As a teacher, encourage them speak to them, ask them to come in the business suits. They can wear a blazer if you have a school blazer or a community blazer. Common, they must have one blazer with them. Students should be encouraged to have this part of the attire. Girls do wear ties, of course, occasionally, usually it is as a nice bow, or what do you call, a kind of a cloth they wear instead of a tie, but there are different variations to it. This is what you do. I hope you enjoy it, you speak about it, you find out. Maybe you can look at some of the movies or popular episodes and say, where do people wear ties? Bring it up, have your own discussion. And finally, in the concept of tie, I didn't ask you to make a jeans or a skull cap, but you can bring a piece of cloth and they can design their own tie. So each child, you can make them into groups of 2 or 3 or 4. Use your arts class and give them Faber-Castell and fabric paint and any theme that they like. So for example, I would love to talk about flags, so I can make a tie full of flags. Someone can make a tie full of clocks. Someone can make a tie full of animals. As I said, someone can make a tie of celestial objects or words. So you can wear the tie on occasion. So if you have a singing competition, your tie is all about lyrics and music or musical instruments. Think about it, design a tie. As always, please share something interesting you're doing. We'd love to host it and post it on our social media, and also see the amount of work and share it with all the other Sky ambassadors across the world. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great fabric demonstration. We are doing candle yellow F. And in F, we are speaking about a very, very important concept called respect for self. How do you really like yourself? Well, do you like yourself when you give up easily, when you lose, when you procrastinate, when you are lazy, when you are almost to the tears for losing something? Well, this is where a key word will be introduced today in the class called the word grit. Now, I would really love you to take a big, huge printout or write the word on the whiteboard, the word grit, grit, and what does it mean? Actually, if you give the origin of the word grit, grit was a word reintroduced in the modern education circle by a very popular author and a TEDx speaker, Angela Duckworth. She said one of the biggest criteria of success in today's world is not talent, is not definitely not IQ levels, which are all ingredients to it, but it is something called being gritty. Now, grit means not giving up. Grit means being determined. Grit means hoping upon hope that you have something beyond your talent. It is pushing yourself. It's called perseverance, and this is a quality every child needs. So as you're doing a small circle time in your class, why don't you ask a time when a child was gritty? So for example, he was not able to solve a maths problem and you persevered with it. Or you were playing football and you could not score or tackle an opponent, and yet you well and did and ultimately you cracked a code. Or it could be a Rubik cube and you don't give up on something easily. So this is an opportunity of being gritty. That's what Angela Duckworth says. One of the most important quality in success parameter is how gritty you are. Then you can speak about a time when they give up something so easily. It could be, just something that the fathers have given up, and the students will speak a lot. Say it could be a simple thing like the car broke down and the father says, I don't like my car, I'm never going to drive again. Or your vacation plan went awry because of the coronavirus that's going on. That is giving up easily. There is always an alternative, there's always something. Especially grit is a characteristic that is demonstrated the best in sports. A team that could be 0-3 down, like happened in last year's Europa Champions League, and how Liverpool came back 0-3 and they defeated Real Madrid. Oh, I'm mixing up my names, but they can give examples of sports where being gritty was really, really good. So another little caveat was, tell me a sports person who you think is the grittiest of all. For Indian cricketers, it could be Virat Kohli or MS Dhoni, or it could be, for me, it has to be Rafael Nadal or Djokovic. These are number ones, not because of just the way they are talented, but because they push their body. They have come back from injuries and they're not given up. Especially someone like Rafael Nadal, who goes on and wins a Wimbledon area, which is not his best surface to play on. He's a clay court specialist and he wins on grass. So that's what being gritty is. Now, as we talk about being gritty, here is a list of behaviors under each scenario. Listen to a child, listen to a scenario, and then ask a child what they think will they do. The options are either being aggressive, passive, or assertive. You now know that being assertive is the best and the most balance of it, but ask them what usually comes naturally. It's always easy for them to talk about someone they it's not about themselves immediately, someone they can, usually it's father or mother. So imagine, I'll take a small scenario. Number one, you borrow your cousin's favorite shirt and accidentally spill something on it. So it's a grease or oil or tea. You apologize and your cousin have forgiven. Now you want to borrow your cousin's new shoes again. What will you do? Right? So, how do you approach it? Will you be assertive and say, see, I'm sorry about a mistake, but I still think it is the best thing I would like to do? Or will you be aggressive? You say, no, no, I want it and that's my right. Or you'll be passive. No, how can I ask? What will you think about it? The answers usually, or the way they answer, will tell you how gritty a student is or not. Let's take up another case study on maths. Number three, your best friend needs to pass maths. You're in the same class. Tomorrow is an important test and a friend has not studied. She wants to cheat off you, or she wants your notes, or she wants you to help her. What do you do? See, being assertive is, of course, the best answer, but how to be assertive is what you have to teach in these classes at Candle. These are what life skills are all about. So, learn about being gritty, and as you teach, perhaps you and I can be a little more grittier in our life as well. All the best. As we go to yellow F2, we are talking about a very, very critical subject called research. Usually, when I think of research, it looks at universities, PhDs, professors, but real research starts at an early stage. Just a Google search is nothing but research. Of course, you have to define what research means. Now, there's a lovely quote we start with: you cannot expect different results doing the same thing. This is attributed to Albert Einstein or Thomas Alva Edison, but the point is, research means to dig deeper. Usually, a Google search will give you very surface knowledge. Here, you can talk about what do you mean by deep knowledge versus surface knowledge. For those who are interested, there is a book called Deep Work by Carl Newport, which is amazing, where he says today we are skimming a lot of things, as in skimming the news. We just want skimming entertainment industry. We're skimming books. We want to read summaries and not the entire book. We sometimes want to see highlight, is like watching a movie's trailer and not watching the movie itself. Research is watching the entire movie and understanding what it means in today's perspective. So, what is deep work and what is shallow work? Deep work is when you take up something and you don't plagiarize. Plagiarization is a new word I'm introducing here. It's a difficult word, but at Yellow, you are talking about some words at this level. It's a level 3 book I'm talking about. Plagiarization means copying something and passing it off as your own. Most of the education boards have a strict actions against plagiarizing. For example, I take a quote and I say, it's mine. That's plagiarizing. I take up a research paper and I put that at mine and I say that is like copying, cheating. It is the worst crime you can do in academic circle. Research challenges plagiarization. Research defeats plagiarization. So what are some of the research a student can do? And you've got 5 points which are really nice, and you have to go and find out what are the searches, what are the places you'll search for research. Number one is you have to write a research paper for a history class. Most likely all the answers might also be a Google search, but also you might want to go and check out a library, you might want to go and look at some archives in history, you might want to go and see Encyclopedia Britannica or even a YouTube. By the way, FYI, for your information, YouTube is the second most search engine in the world after Google. By the way, Google owns both of them. Number two, you're writing an editorial for the school newspaper on the problem in your community. We're going to look at it. So you might want to say, what are the problem I'm talking about? It could be the stray dog menace. It could be the potholes. It could be buses not applying. It could be the garbage piled up. A lot of things. It could be monsoon is coming and the water clogs. And you have to search for a topic. Now this is not Google search, but it also means you have to go around the community and see what works, what does not work. Number three, you're searching for a part-time job to earn money. Well, here you may have to go not to Google, but say to Just Dial or Yellow Pages or some kind of a website which tells you about jobs, apprenticeship. Perhaps the best way would be to take up a small leaflet and stick it in common places, or maybe go approach small malls and say, do you need a summer apprentice? And most of them help you. So that's a research that you're doing. Again, you're doing some kind of searches. Number four, you are interested to know about possibly a new student. And dating a new student in school. Okay, now this is a little sensitive topic we're talking about. We might want to say that you are meeting a new friend here in your school, and what does your friend inform you? How do you make a friend? You might go to Facebook here and might find about this friend around there. You might want to just know the sports inclination, what are the hobbies, what are the things they do. A lot of things come around it. Number 5, you're buying a new music system. This could be an Amazon search. So researchers will take you to different places, and that is what we are talking about today. There's a lovely fun game as well as we talk about it. And this fun game says, what are just answer them. So A, name a name with A that no one think of. It's a proper noun. So you can make up your name. It could be Alien or it could be Andrew Alien, whatever. Have some fun on this particular page. 2 blue creatures that starts from B. It could from Ace of Fable or superhero. Oh well, I can't think of anything but blue creatures is a blue whale or a baleen whale. Maybe you can think of something better. I can't think of it right now. 3 cartoon characters start with C. I can think of Shin Chan. I don't know about anything else. So the idea of this entire game is you start thinking of it, H is 8 countries with H and J starts with some girls with J. I'm sure Joeria would love this idea of J, but the whole point is let's create more research opportunities for our children. All the best. So finally we are doing the 4F3, which we call it the mindset idea. Now, something that I'm very proud of is my association with mindset. When we think of brains or mind, it's the way we see the world matters a lot. We look at a problem and say, no, I can't do it. That is called fixed mindset. When we look at a new challenge, we say, oh, look, I've tried this before. I may not have succeeded, but let me try again. It's called growth mindset. The word mindset was coined by a Stanford University professor, Dr. Carol Dweck. She, Dr. Carol, started focusing on children and the way they approach a problem. When she came up with outstanding answers, which says our minds are so flexible, they're like muscles. The more you work them out, the better they become, the stronger they become. It is because of the neurons that fire. So you start doing something new, you start learning, you start growing, your neurons will keep encouraging you, will keep learning, and they'll become better. So my first activity in the mindset would be to look at your brain, and it's a simple one where you look at the different part of the brain, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the hippocampus, and all of these and what they stand for. Well, this might look a little intimidating for some of you, the brain parts and what they stand for, but it is very, very nice if you look at that for a child, when you know how your brain works, believe me, you start focusing on them. You start knowing that, oh, my brain can grow, my brain is good. And then you start using your neural networks the way it is. So let me start with one of the common ones, the cerebrum. It's the main part of the brain, cerebrum, which helps in thinking and memory. So this is the center of your human intelligence. Remember the word cerebrum. So this is your main part of the brain. Then you have something called cerebellum. Cerebellum is at the back of the brain and it involves in your fine motor skills. So all the things that you move, your hand, feet, your fact, you can play football or tennis is because of cerebellum. So the difference cerebrum, which is your center, which is all about the memory. It has the lobes called the frontal lobe, the temporal lobes. Don't get into that, but these are the two cerebrums and cerebellums. Another one that I really like is the brain stem. Brain stem is like connects your brain to the spinal cord. So all the movement that happens, even your eye movement, everything is because of the brain stem. Of course, now this is what stems are for, isn't it? Your brain injuries are all because of a brain stem. There is something which is also equally important, is what I say, the hippocampus. All your short-term memories, everything gets stored there. So don't get misled by hippocampus here. It looks like a pinkish hippo one, but it is responsible for your learning and memory. So all those turning short-term memory to long-term memory. So if you can't remember the formulas or algebraic equations or periodic table, blame hippocampus. There is something also which stores the short-term memory, the frontal lobe. And these are so interesting part. When you kid, as a child, you learn them, or as an adult, we learn them, we know our brain is paying attention, which is the next activity. So now, can you do two things together? Like, say, watching TV and reading a book? The problem is your brain can't focus simultaneously, which is why we say pay attention. So, how do you pay attention? So, you pay attention to words, eyes, ears, sound, memory. there is a research which says smells give you attention. So example, if you're chewing a chewing gum while studying a maths problem, imagine if you can smell your chewing gum or chew it again, you will be, the brain will recall it faster. Or it could be a fragrance, it could be a place, it could be pictorial. Our brains are brilliant at pictorial learning. You must use pictorial learning as you go ahead. Your brains will love to, it enhances the memory. Now, how is watching TV more better than reading a book? Which one is better? Which one helps you retain information? That can be a class debate. Believe me, I had a debate with a 12-year-old boy on this and I lost. He said watching is better than reading. I'm an old school where I believe reading is better. Most of us are. But both of them in the world of Netflix and Amazon Prime, I think both of them are equally important. Reading, you can't discount it, but watching equally is. A class debate will be brilliant on this topic and I'd love to hear your views. Why don't we just make our brains pay more attention? Good luck and all the best.